Okay, so like I know I did this already, um, but I wasn't really too satisfied with the way the live went down. Um, I was just having a hard time putting the different thoughts I had about everything. I had a hard time getting my ducks in a row, so to speak. So wanted to redo this and make sure that I got it right. Um, there's a lot of meaning behind what's going on and what's happening, why I'm doing this recital the way I'm doing it. And I know there's a lot of people that have been out there that have been, hey man, you're thinking too much about it. Um, you've done a lot of, planning and preparation beyond just the playing of the music aspect, and it's just another playing test. It's just another performance exam, and I get that, but I guess it's just I guess I have the opportunity to put something out there that I'm gonna remember for a very long time, and something that I can share with those around me. And so I'm utilizing the stage that I have, no pun intended, to get something out there. And I wouldn't feel right doing it any other way. So here we are. To start, just kind of as a reminder, the theme for the recital is dealing with not just emotion, but just, I guess, emotions that are too quickly just swept under the rug. We deal with not always the happiest of times, and not the happiest of situations, and not the happiest of emotions. And when things like that happen, I feel like a lot of times people are very quick to, it'll be okay, it'll be fine, everything will work out, and they just kind of sweep it under the rug, and that's kind of it. And I know I'm generalizing and not being very specific, and there are a lot of other situations out there where it's not so black and white, and I get that. And I'm not trying to say that those scenarios I'm not trying to say that those scenarios aren't valid, because they're not. They absolutely are valid, but I think there's also this gray area where people, when they don't know how to respond, or where they don't know how to handle, or I guess maybe just that they don't understand, that they just like, oh, it'll be fine, and that's kind of it. So the first piece we talked about, the timpani piece, dealt with the idea of anger and like malicious intent, and that like physical adaptation, that embodiment of what that looks like. And this piece that we're going to talk about right now isn't as in your face, dealing with some pretty heavy and some pretty dark emotions. But again, I don't think that makes it any less valuable than that emotion. So this piece, the second piece that we're doing, the piece is called "The Love of Histoire" by Charles DeLancey. It's a multi-percussion solo piece. And this piece is based off of, and it pays homage to Stravinsky's Le Histoire du Soldat, and I probably said that wrong, and it's fine. But "The Love of Histoire" by DeLancey, again, because it pays homage and it has this kind of reflective intent behind it, a word I wish I would have thought about when I did the live video the first time. I think that's important to talk about. I will say though that this piece wasn't one of the original pieces that I had kind of in mind to do, so a little bit of this is kind of a stretch, but bear with me here. So this piece paying homage and being kind of reflective to a previous piece that came before it, it reminded me of the idea and of the emotion, and I'm going to say this wrong, it's fine, of nostalgia. And being nostalgic and looking back and seeing memories and kind of seeing where you were at before, I think isn't a bad thing. But it can be used, I think, if we get in our heads a little bit too much, as a crutch, and we kind of limit ourselves to thinking about only what were the good times or only situations that had happened previous to where you're at right now, and we get stuck there. And that's okay. And we're gonna get into that here in a little bit. But I wanted to point out some notes, and I need to be able to see. But I'm summarizing this piece, or kind of what this piece is talking about, with the phrase "life from nostalgia," and why can't I say that word right? Anyway, life from nostalgia, and looking at the original piece that this is kind of based off of. And I'm not going to get into that too much, because I think it just kind of takes away of everything else I'm trying to do with this, and kind of the message of the recital. Anyway, I'm already going on a tangent, and I'll stop myself. There's a question from the narration of that piece, the Stravinsky piece, and the question that the narrator gives is, why do we yearn to add what we once had to what we've got? And I think that question is really, really deep and really thought-provoking. And I think it's something that we don't think about a whole lot, and I think there's a lot of us, me included, that struggle with the idea of, no matter where we are at in a current present situation, we always wish that there was something from a previous point in life that was still kind of around, or that was there, that was different. And again, maybe you're watching this and that's not you. Maybe you're totally happy that you are nowhere near a place or a situation or a setting from your past, and you're super happy to be as far away from that as possible. And that's totally fine. I'm not saying that just because I feel this way or I struggle with this, that everyone else has to or does. But that being said, I don't mind putting a little bit of my dirty laundry out there, an effort for someone to see this, whether it's now as the recital approaches or even after, for them to see this and go, hey, like, I struggle with that too, and now I feel less isolated and less alone because of it. So I looked at that idea of life from nostalgia. I looked at the definition of life, just online using Webster's dictionary online, and this is cool, because I think when we think of life, we just think of like, oh yeah, it's like the thing that you do on a daily basis when you wake up and go to bed, and everything that happens in between. But a definition that I found was the ability to grow and change. Grow and change, that separates plants from animals, from things like water and rocks. But anyway, just that first bit of it, the ability to grow and change. Change can be scary, right? I don't think there's any secret about that. Whether when things change for the better or for the worse, when things change because you fail, when things change because you succeed, we always get stuck with that idea of change. And we always get stuck because it's different from what we're used to. We're just different from something in our past. It's different from a previous experience. And when we kind of get stuck in that nostalgic kind of mindset, whether we're going through photo albums or looking up messages from someone that we probably should have deleted a long time ago, it's really easy to get caught up in that mindset of that emotion or that idea or that something that we want to hold on to from before. We wish it was still around in some way or some aspect of current life. And when we get kind of stuck in that mindset and in that zone, I think it's important to relay the message that if you're feeling stuck because of that, you're not any less than, you're not any less important, you're not able to move on to the next thing because of that. Again, I think when some of us, and me included, deal with that kind of thing, it's very much like, oh, we'll just move on. We're going to sweep it under the rug. Just move on. Oh, it'll be fine. We'll sweep it under the rug. So this piece for me is kind of relating that idea. And unfortunately, unlike the first piece where I was able to play some passages and go like, oh, this particular phrase or this particular measure or this arrival point, signifies this character or this emotion or this thing. Again, that was much more of a physical adaptation, and this is more of, and this is probably just more for me, and that's, I guess it is what it is. But this piece is definitely much more of just that reflective, of that, yeah, that reflective mindset from what was. Um, so I think a lot about life as a kid. um, you know, uh, Me being kind of the older one in my group of friends, at least in this area, I found myself really easily getting caught up in talking about how I grew up and how different experiences that I had growing up as a kid and different friends that I had in different areas I got to experience life in. And I always find myself going back to some of the time I spent, some of the summers that I had with my mom's side of the family down in the LA area. And like I wish some of those people and some of that lifestyle was still very prominent. And I can't say that I get stuck on that all the time, but just that idea of wanting to go back and say that was and kind of reconnect, I think plays a big part in where I'm at today. So I know any of these people probably, well, I know they're not watching. There's really little communication, but when I play this piece, I think about particular people that had a big influence in me in my life. So Jackie, this one's for you. Sierra, this one's for you. Scarlett, this one's for you. All people that I really got close with when I was doing the ATA Taekwondo thing. I remember being really close with Colton. I remember being really close with Nick and a bunch of the other leadership that was there. That had a big influence in kind of where I'm at. And even though all those experiences and all those people had really very minimal to do with the musical path that I ended up going on, I still remember the fun like hangouts and the summers and the camps and the vacations that we all got to get together. So this piece has a very this piece is very much dedicated to all of them. And again, if you feel like you keep looking back and you keep getting stuck because you want to go through that euphoric, nostalgic sentiment, you're not any less than. That's okay. And if you feel that you struggle with those kinds of things, this piece, when I play it, is absolutely for you. So enjoy.